My name is Kendra, and I am 31 years old. I always believed in family. I believed that blood would always stand by blood, that the people who raised you would always have your back. I was about to have the happiest day of my life, my wedding day. But there was a moment during that day that changed everything. My husband stood up to give a toast, and what he said revealed a truth I had been running from for years. Sometimes the most painful truths come from the people you love the most. Before I take you back to the beginning, I want to ask you something. Where are you watching from today? Drop your city or country in the comments below. I love knowing who is joining me on this journey. And if this story touches your heart, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Your support means the world to me. Now let me take you back to where it all started, because to understand what happened at my wedding, you need to know what came before. I grew up in a small town in Ohio, the kind of place where everyone knows everyone and families stick together through thick and thin. At least that is what I believed. My father worked as a manager at a local manufacturing company. He was a quiet man, practical, not one for big displays of emotion. My mother was a part-time nurse at the town clinic. She was warmer, more talkative, but her warmth always seemed to flow in one direction. That direction was toward my younger sister, Brooke. Brooke came into the world 4 years after me. From the moment she arrived, everything shifted. She was the baby of the family, and she knew how to play that role perfectly. Brooke was prettier than me, at least. That is what everyone always said. She had our mother's delicate features and our father's bright eyes. She was outgoing, charming, the kind of girl who could walk into a room and make everyone notice her. I was the opposite. Quiet, studious, invisible. I remember being 7 years old and winning my first spelling bee at school. I came home so excited, clutching my little trophy, expecting my parents to celebrate with me. My mother looked at it, smiled briefly, and then turned back to Brooke, who was crying because she had scraped her knee at recess. The trophy ended up on a shelf in my room gathering dust. No one ever mentioned it again. This pattern repeated throughout my childhood. I worked hard. I got straight A's. I never caused trouble. I helped with chores without being asked. I thought that if I just did everything right, my parents would finally see me. But Brooke was always the sun, and I was just a planet orbiting in her shadow. When Brooke made the cheerleading squad in middle school, my parents threw a party. When I got accepted into the honors program, my father nodded and said, "That is nice." The moment that still haunts me happened at my high school graduation. I was valedictorian. I had worked so hard for that honor, staying up late, studying, sacrificing social events, pushing myself to be the best. I stood on that stage, looking out at the crowd, searching for my parents' faces. Their seats were empty. They arrived 20 minutes late because Brooke had a cheerleading competition that ran over time. I gave my speech to a crowd of strangers, while the 2 seats reserved for my family remained vacant. Afterward, my mother said, "Sorry, we missed most of it, but you know how important Brooke's competitions are." I smiled and said it was okay. But it was not okay. It was never okay. After high school, I received a full scholarship to a state university. My parents did not help me move into my dorm. They were taking Brooke to a cheerleading camp that weekend. I loaded my belongings into my old car and drove myself to campus. I unpacked alone. I cried alone. And then I wiped my tears and told myself that I would build a life where I did not need anyone's approval. I studied accounting. It was practical, stable, and I was good with numbers. I graduated with honors and got a job at a firm in Columbus. I rented a small apartment, paid my own bills, and slowly built a life for myself. I never asked my parents for money. I never asked them for anything. Meanwhile, Brooke still lived at home at 23, working part-time at a boutique, while my parents paid for her car, her clothes, her vacations. She would post pictures on social media of trips to Florida, gifts from mom and dad dinners at expensive restaurants. I would see those posts while eating ramen in my tiny kitchen, and I would wonder what I had done wrong. Then I met Marcus. It was a random Tuesday afternoon. I was at a coffee shop near my office, standing in line looking at my phone. I did not see him until he bumped into me hard and spilled his entire latte down the front of my white blouse. I looked down at the spreading brown stain, and I looked up at him, this tall man with warm brown eyes and an expression of absolute horror on his face. And I laughed. I do not know why. Maybe I was tired of being angry all the time. Maybe something about his genuine distress struck me as funny. But I laughed, and he laughed too. And then he insisted on buying me a new coffee and giving me his jacket to cover the stain. We sat and talked for 2 hours. He was a software engineer originally from Michigan, living in Columbus for work. He asked me questions, real questions, about my life, my dreams, and my past. And he listened. He actually listened. When I mentioned that I was the older sister, but somehow always felt like the forgotten one, he did not brush it off or tell me I was being dramatic. He said, "That sounds really painful. I am sorry you went through that." No one had ever said that to me before. We exchanged numbers. We went on a date that weekend, then another, then another. Marcus became my best friend, my confidant, the person I could tell anything to. He met my parents once briefly when they came to Columbus for some event. They were polite but distant. My mother spent most of the dinner asking me about Brooke's dating life and whether I thought she would settle down soon. Marcus held my hand under the table and squeezed it gently. He did not say anything then, but I knew he saw everything. After 2 years of dating, Marcus proposed. He did it at home in our apartment with candles and flowers and a ring he had saved for over 8 months to buy. It was simple and perfect. I said yes with tears streaming down my face. I finally had someone who chose me, someone who saw me, someone who loved me exactly as I was. I called my parents to share the news. My mother answered on the fourth ring. I told her that Marcus had proposed and that I said yes. There was a pause. Then she said, "Oh, that is wonderful, congratulations." Her voice was flat distracted. Then she said, "Oh, by the way, did you hear that Brooke just got promoted at work? She is doing so well." The conversation lasted maybe 3 minutes. When I hung up, I sat on the couch and stared at the wall for a long time. Marcus sat next to me, not saying anything, just being there. I told myself it would be different when the wedding came. A wedding was a big deal. Surely for my wedding, my parents would show up. Surely they would care. I had no idea how wrong I was. 6 months before my wedding was supposed to happen, Brooke announced that she was engaged. She had been dating a guy named Derek for only 8 months, some banker she met at a bar. But she was engaged, and suddenly everything was about Brooke again. My parents called me to tell me the news, and my mother could not contain her excitement. She talked for 20 minutes about Derek's job, Derek's family, Derek's prospects. She did not ask me a single question about my own wedding planning. Then came the decision that still makes me shake my head in disbelief. Even though I was engaged first, even though Marcus and I had been planning for months, my parents decided that Brooke's wedding should happen before mine. "Brooke wants a spring wedding," my mother explained. "You do not mind pushing yours back a bit, do you?" I wanted to scream. I wanted to say yes. I do mind. I was engaged first. This is supposed to be my time. But I did not say any of that. I had spent my whole life not causing problems, not making waves. So I said, "Okay, we can push it back." Marcus told me I did not have to do that, but I said it was fine. I did not want to start a war with my family. I just wanted peace. Brooke's wedding was scheduled for April. Mine was pushed to September. And then I watched as my parents poured everything into making Brooke's day perfect. The wedding was held at a luxury hotel outside of Columbus. The venue alone cost more than I made in 6 months. 200 guests were invited. There was a live band, a 10-piece orchestra that played as Brooke walked down the aisle. The flowers were imported from somewhere in South America, exotic blooms that I could not even name. The cake was 5 tiers of fondant perfection custom, designed by some famous baker my mother had found online. And Brooke's dress. That dress cost $12,000. It was a designer gown, all lace and crystals and flowing silk. When Brooke showed it to me, she spun around and asked me what I thought. I told her it was beautiful, because it was. And because what else could I say? I was asked to be a bridesmaid. Not the maid of honor, just one of 6 bridesmaids. Brooke chose her college roommate for that role. I told myself it did not matter. I bought my own bridesmaid dress, $400 that I could not really afford. I paid for my own travel, my own hotel room, my own everything. No one offered to help. At the wedding, I stood in the back of the bridal party holding my bouquet, watching my sister marry a man she'd known for less than a year. My parents sat in the front row beaming. My mother cried happy tears. My father looked prouder than I had ever seen him. Then came the speeches. My father stood up, straightened his tie, and began to talk about Brooke. He spoke for almost 15 minutes. He talked about her first steps, her first words, her cheerleading trophies, her college graduation. He called her the light of our lives. He said that everything they did for her. He did not mention me once. Not once in 15 minutes. I sat at my table, froze in my champagne glass, trembling slightly in my hand. I kept waiting for him to say something, anything about his other daughter. Maybe a quick note that Kendra is also getting married soon. But that moment never came. After the reception, I drove back to Columbus in silence. Marcus was with me, but we did not talk. There was nothing to say. When we got home, I went into the bathroom, closed the door, and cried. I cried for the little girl who won the spelling bee and got ignored. I cried for the teenager who gave the valedictorian speech to empty seats. I cried for the woman who was always second, always less, always forgotten. Marcus knocked on the door after a while. He did not ask me to come out. He just said, "I love you, Kendra, no matter what. I love you." And then he waited outside that door until I was ready to open it. When I finally came out, my eyes red and swollen, Marcus hugged me. He held me tight and said, "Our wedding will be different. It will be ours. It will be beautiful. And I will make sure you know how loved you are every single second of that day." I believed him. I had to believe him. Because if I did not have that hope, I did not know how I would keep going. With Brooke's wedding behind us, I threw myself into planning my own ceremony. Marcus and I sat down with a notebook and a calculator, trying to figure out what we could realistically afford. Between student loans and saving for a house, our budget was tight. We decided on an intimate wedding, about 80 guests at a charming restaurant on the outskirts of Columbus. It was not a grand hotel or a luxury venue, but it had character. Exposed brick walls, warm, lighting a little garden out back where we could have the ceremony. I fell in love with it the moment I saw it. I chose my own flowers, simple white roses, and greenery from a local florist. I designed my own invitations on my laptop and printed them at an office supply store. I found a bakery that could make a 2-tier cake within our budget. Every detail was something Marcus and I picked together, something that reflected who we were as a couple. It was not extravagant, but it was ours. About 2 months before the wedding, I decided to call my mother. Part of me still held on to hope. Maybe now that Brooke's wedding was done, my parents would have time for me. Maybe they would want to help even a little. I was not expecting them to pay for everything like they did for Brooke. I just wanted something, some gesture that showed they cared. My mother answered the phone with a distracted hello. I could hear the television in the background. I told her about the wedding plans, about the venue, about the date. She made small noises of acknowledgement, but did not ask any questions. Then I gathered my courage and said, "I was wondering if you and Dad might be able to help out a little. Nothing big. Maybe just the flowers or the cake. Just something." There was a long pause. Then my mother sighed and said, "Kendra, you know the wedding for Brooke cost us so much. We are still paying off the credit cards. I do not think we can do anything major." I said, "I understand. I am not asking for anything major, just anything at all." She said she would talk to my father and get back to me. 2 weeks passed with no word. Then one day I walked to my mailbox and found a small envelope with my parents' return address. Inside was a generic card, the kind you buy in packs of 20 at the drugstore. On the front it said "Congratulations" in curly gold letters. Inside, my mother had written in her neat handwriting, "Wishing you and Marcus all the best. Love, Mom and Dad." And tucked into the card were two bills, a 20 and another 20, $40. I stood at the mailbox holding that card, staring at those two bills. My parents had spent over $50,000 on Brooke's wedding. They had paid for her dress, her flowers, her cake, her honeymoon. And for me, their older daughter, they sent $40 in a greeting card. I did not cry. I was past crying at that point. I just felt hollow, like someone had reached inside me and scooped out everything that was there. I walked back inside, sat down on the couch, and looked at that money for a long time. When Marcus came home from work, he found me sitting there still holding the card. He asked what was wrong, and I handed it to him. He looked at the card, looked at the money, and then looked at me. His jaw tightened. For a moment, I thought he was going to say something angry, something about my parents and how they treated me. But he did not. He just sat down next to me and said, "I am so sorry, Kendra. You deserve so much better than this. And I promise you, I am going to make our wedding the most beautiful day of your life. We do not need them." I leaned into him and whispered, "Thank you." And I meant it with every fiber of my being. The days that followed were busy. I threw myself into the final preparations, trying not to think about the $40, trying not to compare my wedding to Brooke's. I found my dress at a consignment shop, a beautiful ivory gown that someone else had worn once and then sold. It cost $200. It was not designer. It did not have crystals or imported lace. But when I put it on and looked in the mirror, I felt beautiful. That was enough. Brooke called me about a week before the wedding. I thought maybe she was calling to wish me well or to ask if she could help with anything. Instead, she launched into a story about the honeymoon that my parents had gifted her and Derek. 10 days in the Caribbean, a resort with private beaches, snorkeling and spa treatments and 5-star dinners every night. She went on, and I listened in silence. Finally, she said, "Are you still there?" I said, "Yes, I am here." She asked if I was excited for my wedding, but the way she said it made it sound like she was asking if I was excited for a dentist appointment. I said, "Yes, I am excited." Then I said, I had to go and hung up. I sent invitations to my parents and to Brooke. They all confirmed that they would attend. I told myself that at least they were coming. At least they would be there. Maybe things would be different on the actual day. Maybe seeing their older daughter get married would change something. I had no idea what was actually coming. I woke up on my wedding day at 6 in the morning. The sun was barely a pale light filtering through the curtains of my apartment. I lay there for a moment, just breathing, trying to absorb the fact that this was the day I had been waiting for my entire life. I was going to marry Marcus. I was going to start a new chapter. Whatever happened with my family, at least I would have him. My best friend Marissa arrived at 7. Marissa had been my roommate in college, the only person besides Marcus who truly knew my history with my family. She brought Bagel's champagne and her entire makeup kit. She hugged me at the door and said, "Today is your day," or, "No one is going to ruin it." We spent the morning getting ready together. Marissa did my hair, pulling it back in soft waves with a few pieces framing my face. She did my makeup natural but glowing. I slipped into my consignment shop dress, and Marissa zipped up the back. When I looked in the mirror, I almost did not recognize myself. I looked happy. I looked hopeful. I looked like a bride. The ceremony was scheduled for 3 in the afternoon. Marissa drove me to the venue, and we arrived by 1:30. The restaurant staff had transformed the little garden into something magical. White chairs lined a grassy aisle. An arch covered in roses stood at the front. String lights were hung overhead, waiting to twinkle once the sun went down. I stood at the entrance and took it all in. This was happening. This was real. Guests started arriving around 2:30. Marcus's parents came first, warm and welcoming as always. His mother hugged me and told me I looked stunning. His father shook my hand and said, "Welcome to the family officially." Friends from work arrived, college friends, a few distant cousins I had managed to stay in touch with. The garden filled with people who loved me, people who chose to be there. My parents and Brooke arrived at 2:45, 15 minutes before the ceremony was supposed to start. They walked in like they were attending an obligation, not a celebration. My mother looked around the venue and said to no one in particular, "This is cozy." The word cozy sounded like a criticism. My father nodded vaguely and wandered off to find a seat. Neither of them came to see me. Neither of them hugged me or told me I looked beautiful. And then there was Brooke. She walked in wearing a dress that made my heart sink. It was white. Not cream, not champagne, not blush. White. A flowing white maxi dress that looked like it could have been a wedding gown at a beach ceremony. She wore her hair down in loose curls and had on full makeup. She looked like she was trying to be the bride. Guests turned to look at her, confused, whispering among themselves. Marissa grabbed my arm and muttered, "Are you kidding me right now?" I did not say anything. I could not say anything. I just stood there feeling the familiar hollow sensation spreading through my chest. The ceremony began at 3. My father walked me down the aisle. He held my arm stiffly, looking straight ahead, not at me. When we reached Marcus, my father transferred my hand to his without a word. No good luck. No I love you. No take care of my little girl. Just silence. But then I looked at Marcus, and none of that mattered anymore. He was standing there in his navy suit, tears in his eyes, looking at me like I was the only person in the world. The officiant began the ceremony, and Marcus held both my hands in his. When it was time for our vows, Marcus went first. He said, "Kendra, I have been waiting my whole life to find someone like you. Someone kind, someone strong, someone who has been through so much and still chooses to love with her whole heart. I promise to be your partner, your best friend, your biggest supporter. I promise to love you on the good days and the hard days. I promise to stand by you no matter what, today and always." I was crying before he finished. I said my vows through tears, promising to love him, to support him, to build a life together. We exchanged rings. The officiant pronounced us husband and wife. Marcus kissed me, and the small crowd cheered. We moved inside for the reception. The restaurant looked beautiful, tables covered in white cloths, candles flickering, soft music playing. I sat next to Marcus at the head table, his hand never leaving mine. For a brief moment, I let myself believe that everything was going to be okay. Then came the speeches. My father stood up first. The room quieted. I sat up straighter, hoping despite everything that this time would be different. My father cleared his throat, looked around the room, and began. "Well, congratulations to Kendra and Marcus. Hope you two will be happy. Marriage is a big commitment. Good luck with that. Thanks for having us." He sat down. That was it. Maybe 45 seconds. No stories about my childhood, no expressions of love or pride, not even a proper toast. Just a few mumbled sentences, and then silence. The room was uncomfortable. Guests exchanged glances. Marissa reached under the table and squeezed my hand. Then Brooke stood up because of course she did. She grabbed a microphone and smiled her dazzling smile. "I just want to say a few words about my big sister. Kendra and I have always been close. She was always the quiet one, the serious one, and I was the fun one. I am so happy she finally found someone to settle down with. Honestly, I was starting to worry she would end up alone." She laughed like this was hilarious. A few people chuckled nervously. I felt my face burning. Marcus's grip on my hand tightened. Brooke continued talking about herself for another few minutes, about how marriage was wonderful, about her own wedding, about how lucky she was. When she finally sat down, she did so with a satisfied smirk. I wanted to disappear. I wanted to melt into the floor and never come back. But then Marcus stood up. Marcus rose from his chair slowly, deliberately. He picked up his champagne glass in one hand and held the microphone in the other. The room fell silent. I looked up at him, not knowing what to expect. His face was calm, but there was something burning in his eyes, a quiet intensity that I had seen before in private moments, but never in public. "Thank you all for being here today." He began, his voice steady and warm. "It means the world to Kendra and me that you chose to spend this day with us. Some of you have known me for years, and some of you have known Kendra even longer." With a soft smile. "I met Kendra 3 with a soft smile. I met Kendra 3 years ago in a coffee shop. I bumped into her and spilled my entire drink down the front of her shirt. And instead of yelling at me or being upset, she laughed. She stood there covered in coffee and she laughed. In that moment, I knew there was something special about her." A few people in the crowd chuckled. Marcus continued, "Over the past 3 years, I have learned so much about Kendra. I have learned that she is the hardest working person I have ever met. She put herself through college on scholarships and part-time jobs. She paid off her student loans by herself. She built her career from nothing with no help from anyone. She never complains, never asks for handouts, never expects anyone to do things for her. She is completely, fiercely independent." I felt tears pricking at my eyes. Marcus's voice grew quieter, more serious. "But I have also learned something else about Kendra. I have learned that she spent most of her life feeling invisible, feeling like she was not enough, feeling like no matter how hard she tried, no matter how much she achieved, she would never measure up." The room was completely silent now. Marcus reached into his jacket pocket and pulled something out. It was the card, the congratulations card from my parents, and the two $20 bills. When Kendra and I were planning this wedding, he said, holding up the card, she hoped that her family would support us. Not financially necessarily, but emotionally. She just wanted to feel like they cared. And this is what she received: $40. $40 and a generic card. Gasps rippled through the room. I saw my mother's face go pale. My father stared at the tablecloth. Brooke's smile had vanished. Marcus continued, "I am not saying this to embarrass anyone. I am saying this because Kendra has spent her entire life being treated like she does not matter. Her sister had a wedding that cost tens of thousands of dollars. Every detail was paid for. Every wish was granted. And Kendra was given $40 and told good luck." He set the card down on the table. Kendra never asked for much. She never demanded equal treatment. She just wanted to feel loved. She wanted her parents to show up for her the way they showed up for her sister. And time after time, they did not. He turned and looked directly at my parents, who sat frozen at their table. "I want you to know something. Kendra is the most incredible person I have ever known. She is kind, she is strong, she is resilient. She has survived years of being overlooked and undervalued. And she has never become bitter or angry. She still loves you. She still wanted you here today. But I refused to let her feel invisible on her own wedding day." My mother started to stand up. "Marcus," she began, her voice sharp, "you have no right to say these things in front of everyone." Marcus did not flinch. "With all due respect, ma'am, I have every right, because I am Kendra's husband now, and I will spend the rest of my life making sure she knows how loved and valued she is. That is my job now, and if you will not do it, I will." He turned to Brooke. "And you. You walked in here wearing white, trying to pull attention away from your own sister at her wedding. You stood up and made jokes about how Kendra was going to end up alone. Do you have any idea how that feels? Do you even care?" Brooke opened her mouth to respond, but no words came out. Marcus turned back to the room, to all the guests watching in stunned silence. "I am not saying this to start a fight. I am saying this because Kendra deserves to have her truth told. She deserves to be celebrated. She deserves to know that she is not invisible. So I am asking all of you to raise your glasses." He lifted his champagne. "To Kendra, the strongest, kindest, most beautiful woman I have ever known. I am honored to be your husband, and I promise from this day forward you will never feel invisible again." To Kendra, the room echoed glasses rising. I sat there, tears streaming down my face, unable to speak. Marcus sat back down and took my hand. He leaned in and whispered, "I hope that was okay. I love you." I squeezed his hand and whispered back, "I love you too." "Thank you." Across the room, my mother grabbed her purse. My father stood up. Brooke followed. Without a word, the three of them walked out of the reception. The door closed behind them, and they were gone. For a moment, the room was silent. Then Marissa started clapping. Someone else joined in. Soon the entire room was applauding. Not for my parents' departure, but for Marcus, for his courage, for his love. I looked around at all these people who were there for us, who supported us, who chose us. And I realized that this was my family now. Not the people who shared my blood, but the people who shared my heart. The reception continued after my parents and Brooke left. At first, I felt shaky, disoriented. Part of me could not believe what had just happened. But then Marissa was at my side, hugging me, telling me that Marcus was amazing, that I deserved every word he said. Other friends came up one by one to tell me how beautiful the ceremony was, how moved they were, how happy they were for us. Marcus and I had our first dance. We swayed slowly to a song we had picked together, a soft acoustic version of a love song from the 90s. He held me close and whispered in my ear, "I meant every word. You are not alone anymore." I pressed my face against his shoulder and let myself believe it. The rest of the night was a blur of laughter and cake and dancing. For the first time in my life, I was the center of attention for all the right reasons. People wanted to be around me. People celebrated me. It was overwhelming and wonderful and healing. When the reception ended and we drove home, I sat in the passenger seat and stared out the window at the passing streetlights. Marcus reached over and took my hand. "Are you okay?" he asked. I nodded slowly. "I think so. I feel like something broke tonight, something that was already cracked for a long time." "What do you mean?" "I mean, I always knew my family did not treat me fairly, but hearing you say it out loud in front of everyone made it real. There is no pretending anymore. There is no going back to how things were." Marcus nodded. "How do you feel about that?" I thought for a moment. "I feel sad, but I also feel free." "Does that make sense?" "It makes perfect sense." The next few days were quiet. Marcus and I did not take a honeymoon. We could not afford one. Instead, we spent a long weekend at home cooking together, watching movies, just being with each other. It was simple and perfect. My phone buzzed constantly with messages from my mother. She sent texts saying that Marcus had been disrespectful, that I should apologize on his behalf, that family does not air their dirty laundry in public. I did not respond. I was not ready. Brooke texted too. Her message said, "We need to talk." Marcus was way out of line. I read it and put my phone down. I was not ready for that conversation either. After about 2 weeks, I finally called my mother. I sat on the couch with Marcus beside me, not listening and just being present. My mother answered on the second ring. "Kendra, I have been waiting for you to call. This whole situation has been incredibly upsetting." "I know, Mom." "Marcus owes us an apology. What he said was completely inappropriate. He humiliated us in front of everyone." I took a deep breath. "Mom, I am not calling to apologize for Marcus. I am calling because I need to say some things." She was silent. "I spent my entire life trying to get you and Dad to notice me. I was the good kid. I got good grades. I never caused trouble. And none of it mattered. You always put Brooke first. You gave her everything and gave me nothing. Not just money. Attention, love, recognition." "That is not true," my mother said quickly. "We love both of you equally. Then why did you spend $50,000 on Brooke's wedding and send me $40 in a card? Why did you never come to my graduation on time? Why did Dad not say a single meaningful word in his toast?" She was silent again. I am not calling to fight with you. I am calling because I needed to say this. For years, I kept quiet because I did not want to cause problems. But keeping quiet did not change anything. It just made me feel smaller and smaller. Kendra, my mother, said, her voice tight. You are being very unfair. No, Mom. I am being honest for the first time in my life, and I need you to hear it. I do not hate you. I do not hate Dad or Brooke. But I need space. I need time to figure out who I am without constantly trying to earn your approval. So what are you saying? I am saying that I love you, but I cannot keep doing this. If you want me in your life, things need to change. I need to see effort. I need to feel like you actually care. And until that happens, I need distance. My mother did not say anything for a long time. Finally, she said, "This is a lot to take in." I know. Take your time. I will be here when you are ready to talk. I hung up and exhaled. Marcus put his arm around me. I leaned into him and closed my eyes. A few days later, Brooke called. I answered because I knew I could not avoid her forever. She started talking immediately. I cannot believe you let Marcus say those things about us. Do you know how embarrassing that was? People are talking about it. My friend saw it on social media. Someone recorded part of it. I let her vent for a minute. Then I said, Brooke, do you know why Marcus said those things? Because he was trying to make a scene. No, because he loves me. Because he sees how our family treats me. And he could not stay silent anymore. So what you think we are the bad guys, I think you have never had to think about how your actions affect me. You wore white to my wedding, Brooke. You made jokes about me ending up alone. Do you understand how that felt? Silence. I do not think you are a bad person. But I think you have been so used to being the favorite that you do not even notice when you hurt me. And I am done pretending it does not hurt. Brooke was quiet for a long time. Then, in a smaller voice, she said, I did not think about it like that. I know you did not. That is the problem. She said she needed time to think. I said, okay. We hung up. In the weeks that followed, I focused on my life, my work, my marriage, my friendships. Marissa and I started having brunch every Sunday, something we had always talked about but never done. I started keeping a journal, writing down my feelings, trying to process everything that had happened. Marcus was my rock through all of it. Every time I doubted myself, he reminded me that I was strong, that I was worthy, that I was loved. 3 months after the wedding, my father called me. It was the first time he had reached out directly. When I saw his name on my phone, I almost did not answer, but something made me swipe to accept the call. Hello, I said. Kendra. His voice was gruff like it always was, but there was something different in it, something uncertain. I wanted to talk to you. Okay. A long pause. Then he said, I have been thinking about what Marcus said at the wedding, and about what you told your mother. I waited. I am not good at this, he continued. You know that. I never knew how to talk to you. You were always so quiet, so self-sufficient. Brooke was loud and needed attention, so we gave it to her. But I see now that was not fair. I felt my throat tighten. I am sorry, Kendra. I did not know how to be there for you, and I did not try hard enough to learn. I could not remember the last time my father had apologized to me. Maybe never. Thank you for saying that, I said, slowly. It means a lot. I know it does not fix everything, but I want to try. If you will let me. I do not know what that looks like yet, I said honestly, but I appreciate you calling. That is a start. We talked for a few more minutes. It was awkward and halting two people who had never really communicated trying to figure out how, but it was something. A tiny crack of light in a door that had been closed for years. My mother still had not called to apologize. Brooke had sent a few surface-level texts, but nothing meaningful. I decided not to chase them. If they wanted to be in my life, they would have to meet me halfway. In the meantime, I had other things to focus on. Marcus got a promotion at work. I was doing well at my firm. We started saving more seriously for a house building spreadsheets and visiting open houses on weekends. Life was moving forward. I also deepened my friendship with Marissa. She became not just a friend, but a sister, the kind I had always wanted. She was honest with me, supportive of me, proud of me. When I told her about my father's phone call, she hugged me and said, "That is huge, Kendra. I am so proud of you for holding your ground." Slowly, I started to heal. The wound from my family would always be there, but it did not throb the way it used to. I was learning to define myself by who I was not, by who they thought I was. 1 year after the wedding, Marcus and I moved into our first house. It was small, just 2 bedrooms with a tiny backyard, but it was ours. We had saved for it together. We had chosen it together. And when I stood on the front porch, looking at the garden beds I planned to fill with flowers, I felt something I had never felt before. Peace. Real peace. Not the absence of conflict, but the presence of wholeness. Marcus came out and wrapped his arms around me from behind. "What are you thinking about?" he asked. I leaned back into him. I was thinking about how far I have come. A year ago, I was crying in a bathroom after my sister's wedding. Now I am standing in front of our house with my husband, with a life I built. He kissed my temple. "You built it." I just helped. "No," I said. "We built it. Together." That night, I sat in our living room and wrote in my journal. I wrote about the journey, the pain, the healing, and I wrote about what I had learned. Family is not just blood. Family is the people who choose you, who show up for you, who love you without conditions. I spent so many years chasing approval from people who could not see me. Now I understand that their inability to see me was never about me. It was about them. I do not hate my parents. I do not hate Brooke. Holding on to anger would only poison my own life. So I choose to let it go. Not for them, but for me. And I choose to focus on the people who matter. Marcus, Marissa, the friends who came to my wedding and cheered for me, the people who celebrate my wins and comfort me in my losses. Those are my people. That is my family. If you are watching this and you feel invisible in your own family, I want you to know that you are not alone. I know how much it hurts. I know how it feels to wonder why you are never enough. But here is the truth. You are enough. You have always been enough. And if the people around you cannot see that, it is not because something is wrong with you. It is because something is broken in them. Do not wait for them to change. Change your own life. Build your own family. Find people who see you for who you really are. And remember that you deserve love. Real love. The kind that does not make you earn it. The kind that is just there, freely given, no strings attached. I do not know what the future holds. Maybe one day my mother will call and really apologize. Maybe Brooke will grow up and understand what she did. Or maybe they never will. Either way, I am okay. I have Marcus. I have Marissa. I have a home, a career, a life I am proud of. And most importantly, I have me. For so long, I looked outside myself for validation. I needed someone else to tell me I was worthy. Now I know that worthiness starts within. I am enough because I say I am. I am valuable because I exist. No one can take that away from me. So that is my story. The story of how $40 and a wedding toast changed my life. Not because they destroyed me, but because they set me free. If this story touched your heart, I have a question for you. Have you ever felt invisible in your own family? Have you ever had someone stand up for you when you could not stand up for yourself? I would love to hear your story in the comments below. Let us build a community of people who support each other, who see each other, who remind each other that we are not alone. Please take a moment to like this video if it resonated with you. Your likes help other people find these stories. And if you have not already, please subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. When you share this video with someone who might need to hear it, you might be giving them exactly the words they needed today. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being part of this journey with me. I hope that wherever you are, whatever you are going through, you know that you are seen, you are valued, you are loved. Take care of yourself. And remember, happiness does not